Okay, actually, well, let's keep continuing down this is.
Can I just raise one other, just a point, is we also are thinking about people interacting with devices, but especially in travel, and it goes to the car and any other thing, devices talking to devices. There's a ton of information and apps that can be developed, taking information through hopefully open APIs, but even if you can just make it available on a web service from other devices so that you can build that contextual environment. And there's many people who've written around about the Internet of Things. That is also literally around the corner. In some industries, and we do some work in oil and gas, you think about an oil rig out there, there are thousands and thousands of sensors. There's no one sitting out there in that oil rig. And they've written all sorts of apps so that someone sitting here can actually see what is going on, monitoring it, sending people out, and then correlating with the weather, right? So I'm not going to send someone out if it's a storm, if there's a problem, what are the fail-safes? Well, that's an industrial example that is going on today, right now. But we are going to start seeing examples of that in our consumer life. I'm coming home. Okay, turn the heat on. I've got a Nest thermostat in my house. I set it. Right now, this feature is not in Nest yet, but it would be a good feature. If it knows that I'm 35, 40 minutes away and I'm heading home because my car GPS is talking to my Nest, then it can automatically turn on the heat.
Excellent. Yeah, and actually speaking of these kind of, so all these wearable devices, mobile to device to device, network devices, right? So cellular enabled homes, like you drive up to your home, you obviously everything turns on. Maybe like you're at the airport, you hit the button, and then your home turns on, starts to heat up in case you live in Minnesota, it's freezing, right? Talk to us about these markets. Like, where do you see some investment opportunities? Where do you see, and especially for you two at the end here, what would be applications that or companies maybe you'd be interested in working with that would kind of expand your business and your marketplace?
Sure. So I think that the natural evolution of basically constant connectivity is basically with both for devices and for consumers is basically higher utilization. There's basically fair market pricing for these assets that are basically underused currently. So if a rental car normally costs $200, but it's not getting used, maybe today actually a price of $100 is actually the right price. I think you're going to see this for literally everything. Any fixed asset that could be at 100% utilization, that's probably the optimal point. Whereas basically like really high fixed cost, low variable cost. Any market like that should be disrupted, and it will eventually become something where it's variable pricing based on demand and context of a user. So it's all about demand prediction. I think it's all about sort of building and facilitating these connected devices so you can actually get the real-time access to the inventory and understand what the usage is going to be like. So I mean, look like so the other big trend is like data science, but look to the people that are predicting demand, predicting prices, understanding really what utilization should be for these things, and that's I think there's tons of markets for ripe for disruption there.
Yeah, I think with GetAround, we actually grew pretty rapidly. In about 18 months, we actually grew to where we had more listed cars than Zipcar, and it was pretty amazing to see that. But the challenge is that not all of these cars were actually getting utilized in a very effective way. Some of them, may have been, taking business from another person who lived a couple blocks away because they saw us and were excited about it. And so we had to be pretty smart about figuring out, what kind of cars we could place in a specific neighborhood or even an area. So we've actually had to go hyper local to just see what the appetite may be almost going neighborhood by neighborhood as to what kind of, people live in that area, what type of businesses are there, what the parking situation is like. And for us, it's being able to figure out that kind of demand that that Jamie alluded to, that would be perfect for the right blend of cars that we are currently on our system. And keep in mind, any owner can put their vehicle on, and if they live in, say, the outer Richmond, they're going to do quite well because there's not a lot of penetration of other cars sharing services out in the Richmond, but because he's one car and that's surrounded by a bunch of families, he's going to dominate that one particular area and make a pretty good money. And so, for us, it's really, again, trying to understand that hyper-local aspect. I think one of the things that we're still trying to figure out is how much do we actually surface on our mobile app. So You know, do we broadcast right away that a new car just showed up right around the corner from you? Again, the balance between spam versus, you know, something helpful is, it needs to be figured out. And so I think that's kind of where we're, you know, thinking about it at the moment.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing. I think there is a company who's really kind of shifted mindset in this, and that is Uber. And you know, when Uber first came out, people said it's indirect hailing, it's bringing about efficiency. I think Uber's all about time. It's just a time. I mean, it's not my drug of choice. I hate to think how much I spend on it every month. But the biggest thing for me, there's two big things about Uber, and I think it plays into so many different apps. One is it's an enormous time saver, and time's the only thing I can't create. It's the only thing I can't get back. Everything else I can work on, but time I will never get back. And the second thing is something I didn't expect, but it's the auto payment thing. I get out of the car and walk away, and I don't even think about it. And that is so powerful. I met some guys at South by Southwest who are doing that for bar tabs, and I just thought that is so, it's so smart, because I don't feel like, well, what if the guy rips me off, or what if this, I can see it all there. You know, I know who they are, they know who I am. And I just think the more things where it's kind of that walk away, someone will come up with a term if they haven't already, that walk away experience, paid for walk away or whatever, is something really powerful. And I think there's a huge opportunity for that simplicity to go into other apps.
That's great. I cannot agree more. That's an excellent point there. I travel quite a bit, and that's the primary reason why I use Hotels Tonight. It's a couple clicks, draw a little H, I got my hotel, I know exactly where I need to go, boom, I'm there. And I don't need to think twice. It charges my credit card, I'm done. Same thing with Uber. And it takes the pain out of, to be honest, I actually hate negotiating, even though I'm like Asian. I should like negotiating, right? Going to China actually stresses me out. I'm like, I don't really want to, how much am I paying him, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you get nervous about what you're going to pay? I guess for the Ubers. Is there ever any friction for you on that?
It's more the stress of having to negotiate the deal. So if I don't have to negotiate, then that makes it so much easier. If I can focus on my dog, you know, what drives revenue for me. And also what I enjoy too. I want to spend time with my friends. I don't want to spend time negotiating. So to turn it out to you guys on the audience, are there any questions?
Has anyone seen a model around premium and whale adoption on enterprise, specifically mobile? Is there a numbers of percent of that ease of use or this to that? Or on board with like in games, is there any data around
A little hard to hear the
Can you
question.
repeat that?
The question was freemium versus other monetization models in travel.
Travel?
For whales?
Yeah, for whales, just like in games, whales, you know, 10%, how hard it is, what's the percentage of hard it is.
Yeah. What are some of the numbers you guys have seen for freemium versus in travel applications?
No, I haven't seen anything, but I mean, I think it's mostly travel, mostly transactional for travel. I don't know of anyone. Yeah, sorry.
The one thing I would say is that certainly in the hotel customers that we have, they are definitely thinking about how do you build premium channels to their customers, because it's all about brand loyalty. And similar to your example, kind of the pay and walk away, the last thing that someone who's going to spend a lot of money or has a lot of loyalty with an organization is I don't want to be nickel and dime to death. I don't want to have to keep looking at the transaction. So having a seamless relationship where you have to give them a fair bit of information, including all your billing information, but you can trust them, and it really is trust with those customers that I'm going to accurately bill you for what you're going to use, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible. So I definitely know that brands are thinking about this, where they stratify it. I'll give you one example that is, so the Chase Sapphire card, it's actually from my call center days, but it applies as well. They were the first credit card that says, you can call, and on the first ring, you're going to get an agent. Now, you pay for that privilege. You pay whatever their membership fee is, $350. But they took the IVR out. They took everything out because they said our high net worth customers don't want to have to wait online. And so that simple approach, and they were petrified. I remember when they cut it over, they didn't know how to staff it. They didn't know how many calls they were going to get. but their affinity with those customers went way up. They could charge them whatever they wanted to. It could be the most expensive credit card, but the fact I didn't have to wait online, it was the time thing. You're gonna save me, I'm gonna get to an agent immediately. So any app that does that will have value.
Look at how much money people are paying every year to get on a plane 5 minutes before anyone else. You know, admittedly, it's for a better seat, but it's incredible. You know.
That's what's keeping the airlines profitable. That and baggage fees.
All right, you got another
I
question?
want to get my bag on early.
Bring your bag,
So-
offer.
Hi, my question is about technical debt. I have a very short story. It's a little bit more of a technical question as you've had. So I was at the Internet of Things Summit last week where General Electric was talking, and they were talking about how they just completed their audit of all the massive amounts of systems they have. They have this many locomotives, this many jet engines, and all this hardware. And then somebody in the audience asked, what software do you run? And you guys said, so we have COBOL, we've got SCADA, and Fortran, all these ancient systems. And so, you guys are relatively new, Tony's a little bit older. How do you avoid this sort of technical debt that you build up over time? I'd be interested in your comments on that as well, because you guys sort of have a very large staff. Thank you.
Yeah, so our approach is that the industry over time does build APIs. They have to, because you're not going to throw out that COBOL program. A little fact from my BMC days, there's something like 70% of the business logic in the world still runs on mainframes, and that's why there's 14,000 mainframes, and they sell 150 a year, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry maintaining them. But the way Coney has actually designed our platform is twofold. Anything that can be served up as a web service, we can consume. And one of the points I was going to make earlier, one of the great things about mobile apps is I call it integration on the device. IT has spent years trying to integrate stuff at the back end, but you don't have to do that. If you've got a web service and I can pull up one piece of information, I have another web service and I can pull up contextual information, and I can build my app so the server information is actually happening at the server level, I don't care that it's written in COBOL, as long as you can serve it up to a service. So that's really how we've approached it. Now there are some things, like we have a proprietary interface to Siebel, so we front-end CRM. It's not the easiest system to work with. But Siebel, if you want to work with sales organizations, we have an API for Salesforce. We have an API for PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft may not be the success factors of today, but they're still running 60–70% of the HR systems around the world. And so they're not going to make any investment there, so you have to make a technical decision. Is it worth it for me to write hard-coded into a legacy system because nothing's going to change about it? Or is someone else going to write a web service, either in the community or an open source, that we can take advantage of technically? So that's the approach that we've taken. And it's worked very, very well. Screen scraping. Screen scraping. Yes, we have a lot of customers who can't get their IT organization to do what they need them to do, and so they still scrape screens. And they get great information. They have some of the best apps out there are screen scraped from their web applications.
Can we move on to the next question really quick? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Yes, hello, my name is David Macias, and I'm with a startup called GigSky. And I'd like to know what your thoughts might be about a problem of international roaming. So as a travel event here, 80% of people that cross the border turn off their devices. So we've got our own solution and cut at that, but I'd like to know what kinds of things that you guys are aware of that are out there that can solve that big problem.
Again, it's GigSky.
I can tell you Americans get screwed.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, my bill was expensive, of course.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it.
coming from Europe, I don't know, they've just got roaming so much better sorted out. You can prepay it and it doesn't come back and bite you and shock you and so forth. But here, I mean, it's a network problem. It's just far too out of whack on what it is. But I will say something else on a little bit of confidence that it will change is we're just about to move to a new building and we decided we're going to put in gigabit connections. And I thought, this is great, gigabit, send a blast. So we put in a 3 gigabit connection. It's costing us a couple of $1,000 a month. And I just read that Tokyo is getting gigabit connections for $51 a month to the home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. It was only 3 weeks ago we were talking about 3 gigabit connection. Let's sign off on it. and now they're getting it at home. So the pace at which technology is moving internationally, is great. And if AT&T and others don't catch up, people will work their way around it. So.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say though is it's definitely true, and more open platforms like Android, for example, we're launching in Europe now, and we've seen better adoption with Android relative to iOS. It's more open, and we have some US consumers around them.
Yeah, my question has to do more around just data access when you cross the border. And so that hunt for the SIM that you have to go to in every single country, there's a number of different companies out there that are trying to solve that problem. And it's, the domestic market for travel is a little, that's domestic travel, right? But once you're talking about international travel, that's a different market. So the question was, are there any solutions or anything like that that you guys are familiar with?
All right.
Sure. I'll probably answer that one. What's
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm. Great.